Welcome into the DNVR Rockies Podcast presented by Strava Craft Coffee. Remember to use that promo code DNVR20 and you will get 20% off your entire purchase of that CBD-infused, delicious, and potentially life-altering Strava Craft Coffee. I am your host, Drew Creasman. I am the managing editor of DNVR Rockies, and I will be discussing this first game by my own before we patch in a little bit with Patrick Lyons a little bit later on to break down some of the news and notes of the day. But as I am coming to you live, or if you're listening to this a little bit later on the podcast, immediately following the Colorado Rockies 1-0 loss to the Texas Rangers in painstaking fashion. Numerous opportunities to win the game. They could not come through, wasting a really fantastic performance from starting pitcher German Marquez, who did not give up a hit until the sixth inning, where he gave up a pair of doubles, and that would be essentially the game. A lot to break down here, despite the fact that it was 1-0, a really, really promising game from your Colorado Rockies pitching. Maybe not quite so promising from your Colorado Rockies hitting. Some promising signs there, though, still. As I would say, the defense was on point. The pitching was on point. The offensive strategy was on point. The offensive execution maybe left a little bit to be desired, what with the fact that they only managed a couple of hits, the vast majority of them by David Dahl, and they could not manage to push a run across against Lance Lynn and then the Texas Rangers bullpen. So let's break down a little bit. And anytime I see you asking, and I don't know if you're asking for irony, I don't know if you're asking for seriousness, but one more time, that score for you was, of course, indeed 1-0. So the Colorado Rockies had a fantastic pitching performance out of German Marquez. And I've got to start there because it is our draft king of the night. We've got to throw that out for you. It was the best performance of the night. He was the man. He took the loss, sure. Do with that what you will. But German Marquez gave you the kind of performance that if he gives you 9 times out of 10, the Colorado Rockies are going to win themselves some baseball games. He was fantastic. He was almost perfect through the first 5 innings, giving up just 1 walk and 1 at-bat where he just couldn't quite get it done. He had the fastball working. He was dialing it up to 98 miles an hour. He had that breaking ball really working. He managed to hit the over on our DNVR bets program of the 5.5 strikeouts. He got his 6, so he managed that bet. But overall, did he get the win? No. Did the Rockies offense back him up at all? No, not even a little bit. And so, this is probably not the Colorado Rockies that people are expecting in general. You think they're going to come out and rake, and you wonder about the pitching. Tonight, we saw some phenomenal pitching out of not just German Marquez, but the bullpen as well. Both Carlos Estevez and Iro Diaz did what they needed to do in order to get the job done. So, what's going on the other side of the ball? I obviously have several thoughts on that. And by the way, many of these thoughts are, of course, fueled by our friends at Breckenridge Brew. You can see I'm down at the bar. Very much enjoyed our ability to talk to everybody here tonight at the DNVR bar, having the watch party. People coming down, extraordinarily psyched to watch the Rockies play baseball and then lose 1-0. Look, it happens. We know what goes on. And Kirby, I saw it too. The umpire behind home plate did indeed leave something to be desired. There were some rough calls on both sides of the plate. McMahon got rung up early on one. Honestly, I thought it was a strike, but it hadn't been called one all night. Marquez wasn't getting it. It's rough. That being said, the umpire behind the plate was not the difference in the game tonight. And you guys know, I would come out and tell you that, hey, the Rockies got screwed by umpire so-and-so. That's not what happened. A lot of this was a matter of circumstance. Some of it was just those little individual moments, right? Lance Lynn was not the best version of himself that he can be, but every 1-1, 2-2, 3-2 pitch that he needed to get, that needed to go exactly where it needed to go, he got it. He threw a lot of 3-2, 2-2 pitches that were extraordinarily well executed. One that's just popping into my mind off the top of my head, I can't remember the inning, maybe 7, where he got Trevor Story on a fastball away that just buckled him. And there's nothing you can do about that. You've got to tip your cap to the other guy. That being said, they missed their opportunities on offense on several occasions throughout the night. I thought in the 6th inning, like I'm sure many of you did, that the ball that Trevor Story hit was gone. If you'd seen my reaction here in the DNVR bar, you would know I really thought he hit that thing out. And I think most of you probably thought at least it was a gap shot. And it kind of died in center field. And it's funny because whenever there's talk about the thin air of Colorado, it seems like there isn't an opposite of that. And in that particular case, there was, I felt, an opposite of that. Trev went down. He got a fastball low. He hit it where he meant to hit it. He hit it out to center field. Died in the thick, humidified air, if I may. Look, they've been throwing it at us for years. I can say the humidified air in Texas. And it was true. That being said, offensively, the Colorado Rockies did not execute tonight the way you would have liked to have seen. Furthermore, that being said, on the other hand, how many hands do we have? If we're Goro in Mortal Kombat, and we've got 3 or 4 hands here. On the other hand, I incredibly appreciated their approach, and I really hope that tonight's loss is not taken by the Colorado Rockies hitters as a sign that they need to change their approach at the plate, because they saw so many pitches. And eventually, you're going to see some mistakes. Now, they saw a couple that they didn't hit, and that was frustrating, especially against the bullpen late in the game. You guys know I've built him up all offseason. I still believe in the kid. Sam Hilliard saw a couple of 91-mile-an-hour fastballs right in the plate. He could have hit. Romstein Savage is absolutely correct. McMahon and Hilliard, tough night at the plate. McMahon with the 3 Ks. Now, McMahon was pitched incredibly well by both Lynn and the bullpen. That being said, there were some pitches they could have handled, and they didn't. And that's frustrating because the whole strategy for the rest of the game is built on taking advantage of that. And it's still the right play. It's the right way to approach the offense, not just on the road, but at home. If you go back a couple of days and listen to the podcast where Patrick Lyons and I talked about with Nick Groke of The Athletic, how the Rockies need to be more patient. They need to be more patient on the road. They need to be more patient at home. And tonight, they did that. They accomplished that goal. They had Lance Lynn over 100 pitches in the 6th inning. And quite frankly, I am surprised that they sent Lance Lynn out for the 6th inning. I think more often than not in this early season, you're not going to see that. If you all watched the Mets and Braves the day before, Jacob deGrom was out after 5 innings and 72 pitches thrown. Now, the Rangers went the other way, and they decided they were going to ride or die with Lance Lynn because, a lot like the Rockies, they can't afford to mess around too much, right? They're not the favorites in their division. They expect to have to fight for it. And that's what they did tonight. They fought for it, and they won. And fair enough. You tip your cap. I don't think the Rockies played a bad game of baseball. Obviously, Armand Marquez did not play a bad game of baseball. Quite clearly, David Dahl did not play a bad game of baseball. And again, I will point to the number of pitches. Every guy was getting themselves into 3-2 counts. Raimel Tapia taking walks. Trevor Story taking walks. And I can only hope that their takeaway from this game isn't we have to be more aggressive. It's not. Don't. Lynn did his thing. You're not going to run up against a pitcher who makes that many 3-2 perfect pitches. You're not. It was an aberration tonight. And I apologize to anyone who bet based on, unless you took the over on the German Marquez strikeouts and nothing else. Sorry if you took our DraftKings bets on the Rockies winning this one or hitting some home runs or winning the game. I get it. I was expecting more out of the offense as well. That being said, I feel like that's the 12th time. Take a drink of your Breck Brew. Head on down to the farmhouse, by the way. Use your promo code DNVR. You'll get $5 off both the beer and the food at the farmhouse. For every time that I say, that being said, you get to take an extra drink of your Breck Brew. I've got the Mango Mosaic tonight. I'm down at the bar. The Mile High City Copper Lager, also a fan favorite for sure. But all of that being said, this really was the right approach. You have to hold the faith, and I know it's tough out there. I know. Ramstein Savage says, that being said, we love you, Drew. Love you right back. Love all you guys here in the comments. Patrick, I see you saying that was just sad about the best pitching we could have asked for from Marquez, and the bats were left at the hotel. I'll tell you what, Lance Lynn pitched a good game. The relievers for the Rangers, not great. Not great. Rockies could have done more there. And I'll give you one for those of you thirsty for the what the hell, man analysis, for the why didn't they ... analysis. Here's the one. And I'll say this right now because it's opening day and I wanted to be here live for everybody right after the game. I'm not in on a press conference that I can see is going on right now with Bud Black, and I don't have the opportunity to ask him this question. And so, to some degree, it's a little bit unfair. And I promise you I will ask him this question tomorrow morning if it's not being asked right now, and I will listen to the audio if it has. But here's my question, because Portix comes in and he's right. I really thought we had a chance against Leclerc after the leadoff walk, he says, and I agree. So my question is this. McMahon does his job after the leadoff walk. Very good job. He had struck out 3 times on the evening and walked him to lead off the 9th. And now I get to bring in Patrick Lyons on this question. I absolutely love that he's jumped on with us here. And I'm going to ask this straight to you, now not just a totally rhetorical question. McMahon leads off the bottom of the 9th. Rockies have had a hard time making the offense happen. You got the leadoff runner on. There's 30 guys on this roster. Why no Garrett Hampson to come in? Maybe try to steal a base. Maybe put some pressure on that pitcher. What's going on here?
Yeah, just got off the call with Bud Black. That question was not asked, but that's obviously a very fair one. And I think with a 1-0 ball game, you have to be prepared that this thing could go extras, and the last thing you want is to not be prepared on opening day for a game that could go extremely long in what is ultimately a sprint, and you really shoot yourself in the foot in a major way. But you're right. They were really not able to gain a lot of traction against this Ranger pitching. Not a lot of hard hit balls, unfortunately. They did a great job against Lynn, but going late against that bullpen, which doesn't have a lot of swagger. Leclerc is nice. He had a down year in 2019, but as a 26-year-old closer, has a lot of promise. So you finally saw Kemp there, right? You saw Kemp with 2 outs, maybe a little too late. Not sure. The real missed opportunity, if you will, was Trevor Story's at bat in the 8th. He hit a ball 396 feet, and Bud said that probably in the previous ballpark, Globe Life Park, as it was known in Arlington, and even going back beyond that, when in Bud's days of pitching in the majors in the early 80s, and early 90s, that ball was gone. And so we again, the Rockies hit a couple home runs in those exhibition games, but it really didn't feel like the ball was carrying quite like it had in the previous stadium, and that the ball, and you said this, Drew, the ball's sounding great off the bat, and it's a routine fly ball in left field, 300 feet on the nose. So it was really, really unfortunate for the Rockies to not get anything beyond a few runners on second base. They had a base runner in 7 of 9 innings, too. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, they again, that's kind of what I've been harping on this whole time, Patrick, is that the approach was not wrong. They couldn't quite barrel it up. They couldn't quite get that big hit when they needed it to. Several times, guys on base. The lower half of the lineup, you're right. Hilliard with the 4 strikeouts, McMahon with the 3 strikeouts. Those are tough, and you expect these young guys to improve. That an opening day, a big day, might mean a little bit more to these younger, sort of more amped up players, but I don't expect that kind of thing throughout them for the whole season. Both had actually fantastic defensive plays on the night as well. That should be pointed out, but bottom half of the lineup was ugly.
Yeah, Walters, although he was 0 for 3, he did have 2 hard-hit balls. He was the only one on the team, including Dahl, that actually even had hard-hit balls. Right. So, right. Tony bulked up and looked good in those at-bat, productive outs. There were other productive outs. It was, I believe it was in that 4th inning where Murphy and McMahon, Murphy reached base on a walk, and then McMahon had about an 8 or 9 pitch at bat. So between those two of those guys, they really got Lynn's pitch count up high. And again, that's how they're going to win games, at least against this Ranger club, is getting into that bullpen. And Lance Lynn, although it was opening day, was not shy about getting over 100 pitches. He threw 108, only 64 for strikes. So again, a lot of opportunities, and yet, Rockies just couldn't pull through. They couldn't get any well-timed hits. I mean, the Rangers didn't really do much either, but they were able to get 2 doubles, not back-to-back, but relatively close together, and that was it. 2 doubles game.
Yeah, that's the brutal beauty of baseball, isn't it? It's just kind of the whole thing right there. Yeah, and Rockies club coming in and saying, although it didn't end up making a difference, that was a big diving catch from Hilliard with the 2 outs. And, yeah, like they had opportunities. And, again, I wonder, why no bunt with Tapia up and the first guy on. And, again, I would have maybe looked at Hampson to come in and run. There's some chances there in the 9th, but ultimately, yeah, you want to trust in your guys to get some hits, and they just couldn't come up with those hits against the Rangers bullpen like we thought maybe they could there, Patrick. I didn't like, by the way, you were talking about some approach stuff there. The one at bat, I didn't like the approach. Murphy swinging at the first pitch in the 8th inning, popped it up on the infield. That was rough after them driving up counts all game. They got a guy on. Murph pops that one up. That's brutal.
For sure, and that was the one downside, I guess, that we're seeing, that if you stack the lineup with all of those lefties and you have nothing but right-handers on the bench, you can only use one of those righties if a lefty's in. Now, not literally, but if you have Tapia on the bench, you're going to go, well, why isn't he starting? Well, maybe because you need a lefty to in a moment like this, and if anyone's got that kind of 9th inning walk-off juice swagger, obviously it's on the road in Texas, but still, we've seen Tapia do that before, coming off the bench cold like that. So, you think maybe
several times, yeah.
Maybe you say, well, we'll take a step back, and maybe the matchup isn't as good over the course of the first 6 innings, and kind of mix up the lineup a little bit more, have it more balanced. But by doing so, you now have the opportunity to deploy either a righty or a lefty off the bench. If you go all in on your lefties, you don't have that opportunity maybe when you need one most, and you just need something fresh up there at the plate.
Yeah. Rockies club coming in and saying Tapia looked completely distraught after that 2-1 bad call. And here's something I want to say. whether you're with the bad calls or the not, or you're with me on the electronic strike zone or the not, here's the more important thing. I don't want Mac or Tap swinging at that pitch. And I think that's why Tapia looked so distraught. And if you just had a camera on me here at the DNVR bar and seen my reaction to that call, it was way worse than Tapia's, I promise you. Because of this, the coaches have been telling him all offseason, all spring training, all summer camp, don't swing at that pitch. Find a way to zone in. Focus on that smaller zone. Don't offer at that junk out of the zone. And he did. He had a great take there in the ninth inning on a 2-1 call, and it should have gone to 3-1, and it was called 2-2. And this is the difficult job of a manager and a hitting coach. In this moment, right? This is what's happening. Dave Magadan and Bud Black might be right now, as we're speaking to you, sitting down with Rymel and saying, good take. I know he called it a strike. Don't swing at that. Please, we will never get mad at you for swinging at that.
Yeah, there were a few of those calls by home plate umpire Jim Reynolds on Friday night, especially second inning, Ryan McMahon, where he bends down, very clearly a ball. He's taking his shin guard off, got rung up. And there were a few of those where Chirinos was kind of getting those high strikes, especially on the outside, bringing him back. Yeah, he's doing his job, absolutely. Yeah. But as they looked really good at the plate from a standpoint that didn't see a lot of production. Yes, they didn't make the contact. The swings looked good, but not great. But I really liked, again, going back to that Murphy-McMahon back-to-back where they were just taking pitches because Lynn wasn't in and around the strike zone. And again, if he's only throwing, just under 60% of pitches for strikes, and you're just not making that contact, Lynn could have gone 7-8 innings. In 2018 or 2019, this team wouldn't have taken as many pitches, and you could have had Lynn. The question goes, does he have a complete game shutout on opening day? Well, in this case, no, he was done after 6, which is going to help you in Game 2 and Game 3 because now the bullpen has 3 less innings that they've got on their arm. So, again, maybe they don't win this battle, but the Rockies win the war, and we will see that on Saturday and Sunday.
They have to. If I'm Dave Magadan, I'm literally in that room right now saying, don't do anything different. I know you scored 0 runs, and I know David Dahl got 90% of the offense tonight. Don't change your approach because this is how we succeed on the road. Lynn threw an inordinate number of 3-2 pitches that were perfect. There's only so much you can do with that. This is the approach, right, Patrick? Like they have to stay true to this. They can't abandon this.
For sure. And they're going to have that opportunity with Mike Minor on the hill on Saturday. So they're going to have a little bit more of a balanced lineup, same approach. And again, once they're able to tap into that Rangers bullpen, now you've got right-handed and left-handed bats. Because we're not going to see an entire shift change, much like we've seen in years past with the Dodgers after those top guys, right? You're still going to have Dahl, Story, Blackman, Arenado, and I still think you're going to see Murphy and McMahon. After that, you're going to see some changes, but you're going to have that balanced right-left lineup, and you're going to have a lot of different opportunities to strike when the iron's hot. And again, as long as they keep that same approach, which is really exciting to think about, what that's going to look like over the course of a full season or even the 60-game sprint. It really could be a big game changer. It just has to be the bats. The bats just have to make a lot more contact because they struck out way too often. 13 times. Was that the final number?
Yeah,
way too many.
I think so. Yeah, yep. Got to find a way to put the ball in play, and that's where Hamilton Joe is asking thoughts on bunting to manufacture runs. Look, I'm in favor of it, Hamilton, but you still got to get that hit. Eventually, you've got to get that base hit to bring him in, unless the guy hits leadoff double and you want to bunt him over, hit the ground ball to the right side to get him in. But, like that leadoff walk in the ninth, I'm in favor of bunting him over. I'm in favor of bringing in Hampson, seeing if he can steal a base, have Tapia bunt him over to third. That's an interesting idea. But ultimately, they got to find a way to get that hit. Like for this game, we could run over that and we could hash it out, and Patrick and I could probably argue for 20 minutes because it'd be fun. But ultimately, for their season, they got to get the hit in the ninth inning. They can't count on butting guys over and getting the sac fly to tie it up.
And they got to get those hits early, because in the third,
That's right.
Dahl hit his double, Story walked, and you have runners on first and second with one out, with Charlie Blackmon up, with Nolan Arenado up. Couldn't get it done.
Right.
Blackmon got caught looking.
Chuck almost hit that ball out like he was a half tick early on one. That would have been a 2-run shot, and that's the ball game the other way.
Absolutely. And, someone had said something on Twitter about Herman Marquez about how last year, this at first it seemed like this was not going to line up like a typical, Rockies game, because Herman Marquez is not giving up any of those early runs, which the Rockies had been prone to do in years past. That didn't happen.
First inning runs, baby. Nope.
But then, before
Almost
you know it,
perfect through 5. One walk.
Yeah.
Through 5 innings.
Yeah, sixth inning was that first hit. But then you turn around and you get to the end game and you go, oh, that's right. There is another way that the Rockies can lose. They pitch great, bullpen digs out of a couple jams, and they
Defense is good.
Don't score the runs. Forgot about that kind of loss.
They got to do that? No. And you're 100% right, Patrick, and that's why I want to end on this point here, at least this first half of the pod. Of course, if you're watching live, we're going to wrap this one up here with the point from our guy, March Arch Baker, saying, if you get starting pitching like that going forward, going to be okay. And that's 100% true. If Marquez comes out and throws like that, if the bullpen comes out and throws like that, if Gray, if they match this, if Freeland, they're going to be fine. The Rockies are not going to lose a ton of 1-0 games this year. This was a tough one to take. But the pitching, as we've said over the years, is always more important than the hitting. They pitch like this, they're going to hang in there.
John Gray on Saturday is going to go 7 innings, and you know what? I'm not going to hedge my bet and say that he's going to give up a run. He's not going to give up any runs. He's going to put up a goose egg over 7 innings.
There it is.
I just love him coming in, not opening day, doesn't have that pressure, but gets to do that. Anything you can do, I can do better. John Gray loves doing that. He loves snapping a losing streak, and we've said it a million times this preseason, this summer camp. 1 loss is worth 3 losses. So here, John Gray coming in, he's going to snap this 1 to 3 game skid. 7 innings, shutout ball coming up on Saturday.
Absolutely love it. So again, if you're following us here on the live, make sure that you're checking us out in the future. We appreciate it. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast, we really appreciate you doing that. Make sure you're subscribed to the DNVR.com. In the meantime, we'll be back after a short break. If you're, again, listening to the podcast, with a few more bits of analysis and thoughts on some of the news, some of the expanded playoff stuff that's been coming up lately. If you're just checking out the live after the game, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure that you join us again for more live analysis, at least after John Gray's performance. I think that's when it'll be. I'll be down here maybe at the DNVR bar again. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us, and we will see you on the other side.